10-gallon enclosures are way too small for almost every reptile, but not these 5 that you've probably never heard of. I'm going to be talking only about reptiles that can live their entire life in 10-gallon enclosures, not babies that need to be upgraded. So let's just start with number 5, something you probably never heard of before: binos, or Bino geckos, or prickly geckos. There's so many different names, but either way, it's a mostly terrestrial desert species or desert-ish species from Australia. These are small geckos, and when it comes to small geckos, I prefer Eurydactylodes, but I already showed you those in this video right up here. The Australian version is like binos, except for they kind of do look a little bit cooler, and you can still cohab them, but if you're gonna cohab them, probably go up to a 20-gallon enclosure. They're small, but not that small. Instead, you want to give them an arid type mixture of sand and soil and things like that. Give them a pretty hot basking spot, but keep in mind, because they're from arid parts of Australia, it does get pretty cool there at night in certain parts of the year. So it can definitely get down to as low as, say, 65 degrees at nighttime. So if you want to keep them in a 10-gallon, keep one in a 10-gallon, and you can. There's no reason that you couldn't keep them. They're not necessarily always social in the wild, they just are sometimes. And of course, do all your research. Don't be like, well, the bald guy in his basement told me so. I've never kept binos. I just have friends, Daffy's Reptiles, Reptiliadis, and guys like that who have kept them, and I've seen in their collections, and they keep them different ways. If you're looking for an actual resource on how to take care of them and some information, Red Ribbon Reptiles is your guy. Obviously, you're not fitting beasts in these 10-gallon enclosures, but if you're looking to fit a bunch of beasts in something way smaller than a 10-gallon enclosure, you can on my new favorite game, Beast Lord. This is an animal-themed strategy game. This is perfect. If you're an animal lover, there is nothing more fun than strategizing with animals to complete tasks to finish a game. The game has a realistic painting style and vivid role. And I know you love the top 5 list, but this game has over 500 animals in the game. Plus, you can choose your favorite animal cultivation. There are so many to choose from. You'll be dealing with a crisis from the outside world. You have to fight for supremacy and defend your territory. And then you have to rebuild the land and restore the glory of the lords. And it's not just you. You expand your territory and you compete with global players. You'll experience invaders and predators like this tiger that we had to defeat with my red foxes, my favorite animal of all time. Plus, there's insane beasts like Komodo dragons that you can choose from too. Up your levels, complete the chapters, and get more resources. And it's not limited to one type of animal. My serval right now is at level 4, but I'm trying to upgrade the level on my least weasel. I can't wait to see where this goes. Click the link in the description below to download now, and use my code BL777 to help develop early on and make the game more fun right from the hop. Number 4, let's ruin the list with amphibians. We're gonna talk about a few. You can go the North American route with tree frogs, or reed frogs technically, with American green tree frogs. I used to have American green tree frogs, and they were awesome. They were so much fun, but the problem was they were wild caught, and I didn't know back then. This is like 2018 maybe? I have an old video on my channel right here from when we did that. Peep the quality, real good. And they were pretty fun, and they had a cool call, but the problem is they are just kind of boring. So instead, if you want something a little bit more exotic that might cost a little bit more money, make sure that you get yourself maybe a red-eye tree frog, which everybody knows about. And I prefer to be keeping in 20 gallons or even 50-gallon enclosures because I like to keep them together. But you can keep one red-eye tree frog in a 10-gallon enclosure as long as it's a 10-gallon. But keep in mind, these are vertical enclosures and you want them to be humid. So for an example, one of the Exo or Zoom Ed enclosures that's 12 by 12 by 18, it's about 11 gallons, but let's call it a 10-gallon, or you can just convert a 10-gallon standard into a upright enclosure. Human enclosures, and all of these frogs eat bugs. I love them because they all make a cool call, but if you're thinking, you know what, Adam, all my friends have red-eye tree frogs, they're kind of boring, like they're on every postcard from Costa Rica, they're on every book about amphibians or reptiles, you're right. So instead, maybe get something that no one has, or very few people, and that's a starry night reed frog from Madagascar. I was very lucky to go to Madagascar a few years ago, and I found these. And where we found them was kind of wild. It was like a big field with one tree in it, and they were on the tree. So I don't know how they got there. No matter which one you get, tree frogs are cool, or reed frogs. They all have cool calls, they're all a little bit different, and none of them are going to be as crazy as like an Amazon milk frog or a White's tree frog, where they sound insane and they will keep you up at night. These frogs won't. It's little chirps and creaks, and they look really cool. And at night, they're gonna be sleeping underneath leaves or on the side of the enclosure. So generally, you can find them as long as your enclosure isn't too heavily planted. And if it's a 10-gallon enclosure, it's not gonna be a problem. And before number 3, just a bonus, you can keep dart frogs in 10-gallon enclosures too. Now, different species, of course. I prefer pumilios or say Santa Isabels, something that's a little bit smaller, because dart frogs are best kept together in my opinion. So if you keep smaller dart frogs in a 10-gallon enclosure, you can keep this one lengthwise, by the way, and just cover the lid or most of the lid so it stays really humid. You can have a cool enclosure where the frogs are always visible, and you're giving them enough space where the poop isn't collecting too much and all of that. But with dart frogs, you don't really have to worry about this. So my bonus, there's gonna be another one, is dart frogs. And dart frogs are freaking cool. And if you don't like the call of a reed frog or tree frog, you'll definitely like the call of something like a Santa Isabel. I did have to move them out of this room though, because they were too loud. Number 3, this one. Brookesia. I talked about them pretty recently, so I'll go quick on this one, but this is a micro chameleon. And there's a bunch of different Brookesia, but Brookesia superciliaris is the one I'm going to recommend because it's the one I can show you. We found them in Madagascar, and this is the one that people are breeding in captivity. So it's up to you. Preferably what I would do, well, if I did it, I would keep them in a 40-gallon or bigger and keep a bunch of them, but I would keep one in a long 10-gallon enclosure. Tiny little chameleons that are going to eat mostly bugs, and if you were to breed them, the eggs literally look like Tic Tacs. It's hilarious. Like this one you're looking at right here on this branch is gravid. She looks so tiny, she fits on my finger, she barely even covers the length of my finger, and this animal here you would lose in a 20 or 40-gallon enclosure, so that's why I think a 10 might be better. And just so you guys know, I did confer with chameleon experts on this, looking at forums and speaking to people. This isn't just my guess. I am not an expert on the species, but I will tell you, if I were to get a chameleon, it would probably be one of these pygmy chameleons because, well, they are hardier, they're easier to keep, they don't need a crazy night drop like a Jackson's chameleon, and in general, they're adorable. Putting a macro lens on your camera and taking pictures of this, it just never gets old. Number 2, let's go to a different island of the world, New Caledonia. Not crested geckos. I'm talking about Eurydactylodes. Eurydactylodes, otherwise known as chameleon geckos. So we went from chameleons to chameleon geckos, but these are in fact real geckos. And they have the craziest looking scales. Their scales almost look crocodilian-esque, but they are from New Caledonia, which means that most of us would have no problem keeping them because you keep them very similarly. I'm talking almost the same as a crested gecko. They're easier to find. There's 3 or 4 different species, Viardi, Villardi, Bowers. There's a few different ones that are pretty common. So you can work on getting whatever one you like, and they're gonna be captive bred. The diet is super duper easy. You can manually mist them, feed them every couple of days, wham bam, Bob's your uncle, Fran's your aunt. You got the coolest gecko that none of your friends do, and it's in a 10-gallon enclosure, taking up literally a square foot of space on your desk. Tell me there's not a better desk pet in the whole world. Well, there might be a few. I could do a video about that if you want. Let me know in the comments section below. And if you're wondering why I'm not including things like leopard geckos and crested geckos, it's just there are care guides out there that will tell you it's okay to keep them in 10 gallons. And in fact, I used to do that in 2011 or 2010 when I first started getting into them. I just don't anymore because I think they need more space. I have care guides for both that you can watch. I'll put the leopard gecko one up here, but I prefer putting a leopard gecko into an enclosure that is 40 gallons. 50 gallons would be even better because they're longer. These are 18 inches by 18 inches by 36 inches. And that's what I'd like to put guys like my boy Cheech inside of because they have more space to move around and roam, and they do use the space and they do use the little bit of height that you give them. And with crested geckos, this is a toss-up. I prefer keeping them in a technically 33-gallon enclosure. It's one of these EXO 1824s. I prefer these because it gives them more space and you can outfit it better. It's a bigger gecko, so it's gonna jump a little bit, which I love about crested geckos. They do jump, and when they jump, they need space to do it. They need space to accelerate and decelerate, so they're not just going right into the wall. So that's the reason I don't include those, even though you might have expected them. And I'll give you a second bonus because there was no snakes on the list. Snakes are really difficult, but I did put this in the last episode too, 2 years ago for 10-gallon enclosures, and I try to change them up. Smooth and rough green snakes. Smooth and rough green snakes are freaking awesome. This one here I get to see at Flukers, which is a pet that they caught from the wild. Well, they didn't catch it from the wild. They found it in one of their buildings, and it was too cold to release them. So they're taking care of them, and it's cool because they eat bugs. So these little snakes eat bugs. They're arboreal. But the reason I wanted to touch on them again is because I've actually seen them very commonly bred in captivity now. Every expo that I go to, the Toronto expos I've seen for the last year, every time I go, they have captive, bred, and born, usually rough green snakes, but sometimes smooth green snakes too. And I think that's awesome. So sure, somebody probably found them in the wild and then bred them. Who cares? We have captive species now, which means no parasites and just easier all the way around. These are really cool snakes. They're fantastic, and you can keep them in a 10-gallon arboreal enclosure for their entire life. Now let's get to number 1. And I promise you didn't see this coming. Inverts. Okay, I know inverts are not reptiles and they're not amphibians, they're not even close. My point here, and I am trying to make a point, is 10-gallon enclosures are almost always too small for almost everything. I prefer everything on this list to be kept in bigger enclosures than 10 gallons. But I know that a lot of you have a 10-gallon enclosure and you're gonna put something in it. So put one of these instead of putting something like a crested gecko or a leopard gecko or something that really doesn't fit. And if you're looking for inverts, there's so many good channels out there, right? Tarantula Cat, Richard at the Tarantula Collective is unreal. I actually did a video with him and learned quite a bit. So my personal experience, I don't have tarantulas. I do have a lot of isopods, which, I mean, you can keep in much smaller than 10 gallons if you want. Mantids are another great one, but I prefer scorpions. So there's 2 different types, emperor scorpions, which are a little bit less common now, and Asian forest scorpions, which are really common. That's what I have. This is an Asian forest scorpion, glowing in the dark, looking super cool. They're cool because they have those little pinchers and they have the stinger. So yes, it is a venomous, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's venomous, but it's kind of like a bee sting. So even if it were to get out and sting you, it's a non-event. It's no big deal. There's other scorpions out there that I wouldn't recommend for most people because they are medically significant, and the pinchers don't hurt that bad. My wife and I have both been pinched by them. It's not a big deal. They're gonna eat mostly insects, easy to set up. 10-gallon enclosures are a mansion for them. And if you're really into spiders, I'm not. Spider warning here. I know some of you don't like them. This is a green bottle blue. Green bottle blues are great spiders, probably the most common of all the tarantulas, and you can keep them in a 10-gallon, no problem. Even smaller if you want it. Or if you want something a little bit more exotic, maybe an Arizona blonde. Neither of them are medically significant. The urticating hairs, if you don't know, this is really cool. Old world spiders in general are venomous. Tarantulas, I'm talking about. New world are also venomous, but they will more likely not bite, but instead flick the hairs on their rump, basically, at you, and those will annoy the crap out of you. They'll stick in your skin or your eyes or your throat or your nose, and it will be so itchy and basically unbearable. They're called urticating hairs, and that is, anyway, I'm not a spider expert, but I think that's pretty freaking cool. Let me know what animals you have kept in a 10-gallon. Would you do it again or not? Because I do videos twice a week, that means I'll see you in the next one.